Connie, before you go, no regrets about today?
No, I think it's a real honour and privilege to be carrying the Olympic torch, and I think everything the Olympics stands for is good.
Connie, thanks very much indeed for joining us here on News 24. Connie Hug there.
Thanks.
These are live pictures now, back in central London. The torch seems to be back, moving along the ground. James Pearce, our sports correspondent, has been watching this. James, just talk us through what happened in Fleet Street, because there was a bit of a hiccup there, certainly according to the official schedule.
Very much so. You can see there's Ed Code, the former Olympic rower, just handing the torch over now. What happened is that the police decided they weren't happy with the safety of the torch. More than 100 protesters had surrounded the torch. That is why they decided that the torch should go onto the bus. Very much the backup as far as safety is concerned. Around St Paul's Cathedral, there were a large number of demonstrators who were waiting. Many to protest, but also many who'd waited a long time to see the Olympic flame and to cheer it on as well. But the police decided to take the torch on the bus, and now further on down the road, the people who were meant to carry the torch outside St Paul's have been carrying it here instead. So we've just seen Kenny Logan, the rugby player, and Ed Code, as I was mentioning, the rower. We're now on King William Street in the city of London. I think this area was where the torch was always meant to be actually on a bus rather than on foot. But now on this part of the bus route, instead the bus has stopped, and the people who were deprived of the chance of carrying the torch outside St Paul's are being given the chance to carry the torch right here. So a reshuffle, and the first, I suppose, direct impact of the protest today is that they have had to change the way the route was managed. And until now there have been protests, but the route and the torch have carried on regardless. But this time the protesters in such large numbers, the police decided that the plans were going to have to be changed.
James, I think this is Wendy Morell, I'm told, and Caesar, her dog. Is she a Paralympian?
I have to say, I'm not too sure, Tim. I can check that and get back to you. I know that she was given the torch by Samsung, who again are one of the sponsors of this torch relay.
Yeah, James, sorry, I'm getting a lot more help than you are. In fact, I'm just being told that she had a sporting accident. She's a maths teacher. But it's interesting, isn't it? A real eclectic mix of people involved in carrying the torch today.
They are, and it is, you know, at the risk of repeating myself, what should be such a special day for these people, to carry the Olympic torch, one of the great sporting symbols that we have, to be able to carry it through what might be your home city, or certainly in your own country anyway. But of course, this isn't a normal day. You wouldn't normally expect protests like this around a symbol like the Olympic torch, a very uncontroversial symbol, really. Yes, the Olympic movement has had its problems with drugs and other sporting controversies, but nothing that would engender protests like we're seeing here on the issue of Tibet. But the International Olympic Committee has seen before that when it comes to the Olympics, that sports and politics can't really be kept apart. We're thinking back to the Olympic boycotts in Moscow and Los Angeles. So it's not the first time that the Olympic movement has had issues and problems when it comes to politics. But this is still, will have to go down, I think, as one of the more difficult days in the history of the Olympic movement. And the problem that the organisers of the torch relay have is that this is one difficult day. I know that there are going to be plenty more to come as the relay moves on around the world.
James, just it looks at the moment as if that police presence has thinned out a little bit. So well, not as many demonstrators. We're going across a bridge now.
Well, that's right. I think the reason for that is because demonstrators weren't expecting the torch to be carried on foot at this stage of the relay, so the protesters won't have gathered here. That's why the police tactics, in a way, were quite shrewd, because they took the torch past all the protesters on the bus. The bus abruptly came to a halt. The people who were going to carry the torch were dropped off the bus, and the procession has carried on again. So any protesters who planned their route from what they might have seen in the papers and what was going to be happening where wouldn't have been targeting the kind of area we're seeing now. But I'm sure that later on the route, especially maybe when we get to Tower Bridge again, there might be more protests. But also the police have an added advantage here, because if you move the camera just around the side, you'll see that there are natural barriers here against the bridge anyway. So the police have a lot of help from the barriers here. Anyone who wanted to get near to the torch would first have to jump over the barriers. But there's no one here anyway, to be honest, who looks as though they are intent on causing trouble anyway. Most people here are just bystanders. Some of them, I'm sure, who were just going for a pleasant Sunday afternoon stroll through the centre of London and have found themselves now caught up in the torch relay.